Welcome to the Saved in Southern podcast. Today, we have a story that I think is going to bless you just as much as it's blessed me all the times I've heard it over these past few years. This is a gentleman who has been through so much, truly. Ever since birth, he's been through thing after thing, trial after trial, success after success, victory after victory. He's seen a lot, and it's a really powerful story. One of God's patience, His presence, His blessings, and His consistency. And I think you're going to really enjoy it. Today we're going to be talking to Steventhen Holland. Has a ministry of his own, a story that is beyond anything I could ever tell, and a story that is not changing, it's just growing. A lot of things you hear today will be the first time he's actually been able to speak on some of what's currently going on. And I hope that when he says what he says and shares his heart, that if you're going through something like this, if you're maybe dealing with a family member or a friend who is going through something like this, that it encourages you to never give up and to be patient and to know that God's not done yet. Well, guys, we're sitting here with Mr. Steventhen Holland. This is a story that I'm super glad for it to be our first one back. If you guys have followed us before, we have a few episodes up. I know there's been a lot of time since our last upload. A lot of things have happened, and God has opened up a lot of doors. He's also closed some doors and made us have to kind of rethink some things, and now we're back. Portion of that, though, was that we wanted to highlight stories, we wanted to highlight testimony, use this podcast as a way to be able to give people encouragement. Use this as a way to be able to share stories of what God is doing, what He has done in multiple people's lives, in their ministries, and maybe encourage you, maybe uplift you, maybe share something that you're going through that you may think no one else is. That may not be the truth. And so today we're talking to Mr. Steventhen. He has so much going on that's so good in terms of his life, his ministry, the stuff he's doing for the Lord around the world. And we have him on today because I want him to share his encouragement and his story and where he's at. And maybe you're watching this and you can work through it with him. Who knows, right? But Steventhen, I just appreciate you taking time. I've been excited about this, and I'm happy to have you on.
Oh, thank you for having me, Caleb. And just for you watchers and listeners, my voice might be a little strange, different. I had a stroke on March 6th. I wasn't expecting it at 43, but I did. And it's changed some things in my life. But it hasn't changed who God is. He's faithful. He's good. And I got a story to share. So, Caleb, thank you for having me on, brother. I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely.
It could have gone a
100%.
lot different.
I feel like this whole episode of us talking is
hmm
almost full circle
It
because
is.
we've known each other for many years now. We've been on the stage
Yeah.
together before,
hmm Yeah.
and we've been following each other in terms of ministry, in terms of life for years. And to be able to kind of sit down and talk about God and talk about testimony, I feel like a full circle thing.
Yeah.
But let's just jump right into it, right? So,
Yeah.
you had mentioned a stroke, and there's been a ton of stuff going on in terms of you kind of going through some things with health in the past couple of months. But before that, you talk about having a story to share. Give everyone, if you could, a little bit of an idea as to who you are and daily life
Yeah.
for Steventhen Holland.
Well, again, thank you for having me, but my story hasn't changed. Like, even though I had a stroke, I still have a story. God still has a story to speak through me. And that began as an 8-year-old little boy. I found out I was brown, living in a white home. And I came home with some questions. Like, I had some kids at school, like, hey, you're the wrong color. I'm like, wrong color? What do you mean? And that was the first time in my life I'd ever, like, realized, like, I look at my hand, I'm like, I'm brown. I look a little different than the rest of my family. And then I realized, like, there's Ricky, Rod, Renee, and Robin. Then there's Steventhen, you know, and I'm the
Right.
only Steventhen in the world. But I'll tell about that later. But I had some questions, so I come home and I'm sitting on the edge of bed with my mom, edge of the bed, and that was just something. It was every night. We had a routine, and mom sat down with me, and I found out that night through tears, through crying with her. I was a foster kid at 7 days old. I was adopted. They adopted me at age 2, and that night she gave me a gift. I didn't realize it was a gift, but it was a three ring binder. It had my birth certificate, and then it had like 7 pages of broken family history. And needless to say, I didn't realize how important that would be. But but that's the first time in my life I ever remember asking God why. That's
Yeah.
the first time in my life I ever remember feeling broken. And I was broken. My name was weird. My skin color was different. All this just was dumped on me, and
Yeah.
I had some questions. But I'm thankful that I had drug problem growing up. I was drug in and drug out of every church service known to man, and I'm thankful for
That's
that.
right.
I'm thankful for a God that's faithful. I'm thankful for a family that saw the importance of their faith and church and being there when the doors were open. And sometimes when the doors weren't open, we cleaned the church, right? So I'm thankful that for that because a couple months of wallowing in my own self pity. Why,
Right.
God, what are you doing? It quickly turned to we were having a revival at church, and it didn't take long. I interrupted service. I came running to the altar because I needed to know that person, Jesus, not just the name. I guess I'd heard all my life, and because I was broken. So I'm thankful today for brokenness, and that's hard to say in the midst. I sit here in the middle of a stroke, trying to
Right.
recover, and it's hard. Um, there's days that are tough, but God has never changed. Like He's still
That's right.
faithful. Um, he's still that same Jesus, that I came running to as an 8-year old broken little boy, and I'm just broken in a different way. So that started a journey for me. But sports was a place. I don't know if you can relate to this, but sports is a place I found my identity, my worth.
Oh yeah.
You weren't going to run faster or hit harder than me, And so I was a fullback, middle linebacker, uh, 200, none of your business, I say, and we'll just leave it at that. But um, so middle school, high school, but in high school, in my junior year, I had back surgery, and I was laying in bed asking God that same question that 8-year-old did, why, you know?
Yeah.
And God took me, or well, I say it was God. He took me to that passage of scripture, Romans 12:1 and 2. In view of God's mercy, offer your body. Lord, I'm looking around like I'm reading it fresh, right? I offer your body as a living sacrifice, for this is true worship. It's not the songs we sing; it's the heart
Right.
in which we bring to Him. So, and then verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world; be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and then and only then will you be able to test His will." And I didn't completely understand that, but I believed it. Right? You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean?
Absolutely.
Um, I believe that God could restore and turn this around. So I didn't understand. I didn't know the answers like to the why question, all of it, but I knew God was faithful, and I've seen
That's
Him
right.
work for 17 years of my life. So I got out of that, got in shape and the best shape of my life, honestly. Um, and I walked onto a college campus, and it was named King College at the time. It's King University. They've gone up in the world, have multiple campuses now. But I heard the crack of a bat, and I realized, like, I played baseball since I was 4 years old. Like, that's my first love. So I walked onto the baseball team, earned a scholarship, but well, I think I was there for the female volleyball team, just to be honest. Because
Well,
baseball
how
and
dare
I
you?
mean, yeah, I know. God makes His creations beautiful. So, like, let's
That's
just let's
exactly
just
right.
admit it. But I had my eyes. Well, first of all, I majored in youth ministry, and I earned a scholarship in baseball. But again, I was there for the female volleyball team. I think that's why God took me there. But I had my eyes in the wrong place. I don't know if
Right.
anybody else can relate to this, but I had my eyes focused on the roommate and her. Well, I won't say her name live on. I may have said it, but anyways, God knew. God's plans are always better than ours. And God knew that I needed to be with a roommate, and she was going to be my wife, and her name is Rachel. And so, long story short, I married her. I actually got to sing in the roommate's wedding, so that was kind of
There you
cool.
go.
But I'm like, come on, God, why again? But God knew why, and
Right.
because I was supposed to be the roommate, and Rachel and I we get married June 17th of 2006. And long story short, we have three daughters today. Well, not today, but we have three daughters. Right now they're 19, 16, and 13, and it's such a blessing. But we've also lost two babies. So we had two miscarriages, and we lost an 8 week and a 10 week old. And through the pain of losing those children, uh, brokenness again, right? God used that brokenness in my life and my wife's life uh, to seek out my birth mom. And I wanted to find answers, medical history on me from,
Right.
by finding my birth mom. And that's what started the journey was through brokenness. And I'm thankful for that. Today I can look back and see God knew what he was doing. So why should I question that? But I took out that paperwork, that gift I was given as an 8 year old, and 3 days of looking, I found my birth uncle, Steve Holt. He's a magician and ventriloquist. So anyways, that's hard for me to say, but it's the people
Right.
that play with puppets. And I don't know about you, but I've seen Chucky, right? I've seen
Yeah, I'm
it.
good on it.
I don't like those. I don't
Funny
like the,
enough, I have a family member that's a magician as well. And I'm not
there you
saying we
go.
don't
See,
talk. I'm just saying I
right.
have my
But they're weird.
boundaries.
They're weird. So I love him. I love my uncle. Uncle Steve's awesome, but he's
Right.
weird. And you have to be a magician and play with puppets. So, but
That's
anyways,
right.
I found him 3 days looking online and paperwork from 1982. That's all I had, and name searches. And long story short, I jumped in a car, or I flew. I flew from Tampa, Florida to Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I spent 2 days with him. And he caught me up on the story. So the story, that I didn't know, I found out over 2 days was my mom was born in the middle of six kids, and they were all they were orphaned. They were mentally disabled, except for my uncle Steve. He's the only quote normal one in the family, and but he grew up, not having normalcy in his family, and he was the only one of six, and so. At the age of 18, their parents had died. At the age of 18, my mom was placed in a mental facility, and I know this is hard. It's hard for me to say, but she was taken advantage of.
Right.
She was actually raped by five men, and she got pregnant with me. And this is a state-ran facility. She's in a state mental hospital, and they're pressuring her
Right.
to abort me every day. But this 18-year-old, she was only 18, but had a mind of only an 11-year-old child. So the fact that that happened to her, does she even know what happened to her? and,
Yeah.
and the fact that she probably didn't tell anybody. And that's honestly what happened. They didn't find out that she was pregnant until she started showing, and they were pressuring her every day to abort me. And by the grace of God, she ran away to save me. This 18-year-old, only a 11-year-old mind, knew that her baby was worth carrying and fighting for. And by the end of the pregnancy, 9 months pregnant, she was living in a cardboard box. Uh, she was 18, alone, homeless, and the 16-year-old named Bobby Perkins just happened to see the box movie behind the store, the grocery store pickets, where she in this little town called Whitwell. If you're from there, Whitwell, I think is how they say it. But well, just but I'm thankful that Bobby walked by that day, because he saw my mom, saw me, took us home to his family, and they cared for us there for 2 weeks until she gave birth to Okay, now you got to get ready for it, your listeners. So she names me in the hospital. What do you want to name your son? Like, and well, I want to name him Stephen, then William Holt. So whoever heard my name in the hospital that day put Steventhen, and William
Ah,
is my middle name, so they put Steventhen together. So that's how I
right.
got my name. So I'm the only one with
How
name
about that?
Steventhen in the world. So .com, that's it.
Right.
So, but she named me that in the hospital that day, and then 7 days later, only 7 days, I was dropped off. Bobby and her dropped me off at Human Services on the same bottle I left the hospital with. I was really weak, malnutritioned, but here's brokenness again. The power of it. My mom, the Holland family, they had had a miscarriage 2 years prior, and it broke them. Right? It that they were longing for a baby boy, and they had Ricky, they had Rod, they had Renee, they had Robin, but they longed for a baby boy. So they were not only did they have their 4 kids in the home, they had a sibling set of 5 foster kids. So if you do the math, right, which I'm not great at, 9. They had 9 kids in the home, but they were longing for the baby boy, and they got me. So
Right.
on 7 days after I was born at Human Services down in Marion County, Tennessee, they called the Hollands and said, "Hey, this baby just got dropped off. Nobody wants him. He's probably gonna die. Will you take him?" And God doesn't make mistakes. He used that brokenness to open up their heart and
Amen.
their home to me. And so 2 days are at 2 years old, 7 days old. They brought me into their home. In 2 years, they adopted me, and I became Steventhen William Holland. So you know, I'm finding this out. I'm just in awe of what God does. And my uncle looks at me in that living room in his home. 2 days are spent together, and he got kind of quiet. And he said, "Hey, your mom's alive. She's 5 hours south of where we are. Do you want to meet her?" And I paused and I looked at him. I said, "It's time." I was 27 years old, and it's time. This was
Yeah.
in, I think, 2009, the summer of 2009. And long story short, I got to meet my birth mom, um, Glenda Sue Holt is her name. And I call her my hero because I got to spend time with her. It was kind of nursing home facility, men on one side, women
Right.
on the other. But my uncle did a magic show because we didn't know how, she was only 46 years old, so we didn't know how she would react or take the news. Hey, meet your 27-year-old son. But anyways, God knew. God
Right.
knew. And we have it on video, and you can watch it if you want. But
Right.
that's the story.
There's so many roads that that we could go down, and I'm so glad we already have other stuff planned because there's so many more conversations that I'm excited to have about this down the road. One thing that stuck out about your story, but also something that you said when we were on the phone the other day,
Mhm.
is it gave broken not dead a whole other meaning.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've noticed throughout my life, through being divorced, but now being with my wife, loving my life, God doing what He did in that situation with our daughter, with our family, I can already see at a young age, and not having been through half the things that you or other people have experienced, that patterns. If you look and if you're aware of it, God has patterns, and I love that you could have chosen to, when you asked that question of why, it would have been really easy, especially in those moments of when you're at college and we're guys, guys are
Hmm.
guys, and we're looking at
Yep.
girls, and they, it'd have been really easy to fall into, well, let me just go to a bar. Let me
Hmm.
just go get involved with her. Or when you're sitting there and you're talking about, well, I'm going to come out and I want to go find whatever's happening that's causing the situation with my kids and going through having those situations happen where you lose those children, it would have been really easy to just turn the back and say, well,
Hmm.
you know what? Why? I don't care anymore because this isn't fair. Or any of those other situations would have been really easy. It would have been easy. And I think that's another pattern is
Yeah.
that people sometimes I don't think realize that in the Christian walk, it doesn't make being a believer and seeking out God, it doesn't make life easy. It just means that we have someone walking with us through it. It
Hmm.
doesn't make it where those situations don't happen anymore. It just makes it where that when we seek out, hey, I want to know what my history is that's causing this, that we don't get frustrated at that history. We don't blame our mom, our dad. We don't blame our situational circumstances for putting us where we're at. So I think it's really cool that in what you went through, it would have been easy to sit there and blame God for everything. But I think it's a very big notion of your story and a mission of what you do with your ministry. Of that, no, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to trust. I'm going to sit there and I'm
Yeah.
going to be patient. And so I just think that patterns are important. I think that as Christians, we should be aware of in our lives what God does, because a lot of times we take that as Him not moving. We take that as Him not giving us what it is we think we should have, or not giving us whatever that outcome should be, whatever the answer is in that moment. We take, oh, well, I don't understand why you're doing this, as either, well, you're not moving or you don't love me. So I hope that everyone can take from that, and I take from that. The second thing, and this is kind of where I wanted to get back into it in terms of your story, is when we talked on the phone, we were discussing music, and we were
Hmm.
discussing what an important part of your life that has played, not just for ministry, but just for you. I'm a
Yeah.
musician myself, and how
Yeah.
important that's been. And to take a step further with brokenness, like you were talking about, and I like how you put up the power of brokenness. It's teaching you a new lesson, as we talked about, in the patience of having to basically almost lose that skill, but
Yeah.
regaining it and
Yeah.
kind of going through. And I got to ask, in those moments of all through life, where it would have been easy to get frustrated at God, what was that feeling like now that you've been through that stuff? You have spoken on stages to thousands of people. You've been doing ministry and doing things for God in the kingdom for years. And then you get hit with this.
Hmm.
What was that? Was that reaction the same with this situation? Or what was the reaction like to this at this point in life?
Man, I don't shy away from crying. It's been hard. Um, but I know I'm not the only one fighting battles today. Um, Music has played a huge part in my life. You know, it was my escape. It's where I went to. I spent hours, listening to Vince Gill, Boys to Men, Stevie um, Wonder. In case you're wondering, no pun intended. But music was important. It is important to me. I don't want to say it was, but I found my voice, like my identity. But I had to realize, like in this moment, music's just something I do. It's not who I am, like in Christ. Like, um, I think when we're going through the moments, like every moment's like, man, this is the hardest thing I've had to do, hardest thing I've had to do. Why, God? There was a lot of why moments at the beginning,
Right.
4.5 months ago. There's even moments now, like, why, God? That doesn't mean I don't believe in Him. Like, my belief in Him has never wavered or, it has gotten less. But the why questions have been loud.
Right.
God, what are you doing? I don't understand. Why did you take this away from me? So So yeah, so you've seen me use my left hand. Yeah, that's my chording hand, but I haven't shown you my right. It's my strumming hand. It's hard.
I
Yeah,
asked that for a reason,
I
and
know.
I told you that I wanted to get deep into this. Um, I don't ask that to be completely clear to everyone watching. I don't ask that way to say, oh well, you've been doing all this stuff and you've been doing ministry and you've had this going on. Well, aren't you asking aren't you asking why for the situation? Aren't you? I asked that because of what you just said. In that moment of realizing, because I'm a drummer, I'm a singer every week,
Yep,
have been for
yep,
years.
yep,
I wanted to get into that specifically because we don't talk about the ministry of music enough, and we don't talk
yep,
about how that it's very easy. No matter if it's music, if it's nursery, if it's grading team, if it's social media, if it's the pastors, no matter who it is in ministry and in life, I think sometimes we get wrapped in that. And just like you said,
yep,
you have to remind yourself that's not who I am. But it
yep,
becomes such a passion
yep,
that then that why question comes up and then that brokenness comes up. But the reality is that in that moment, you're you're just reminding something about yourself. You're reminding it that hey,
yep.
I'm more than this. I'm more
Well,
than just a situation, and
you
I'm going to
you
get past
worship
it.
you worship through it.
Right. And that's what I'm saying is that's why I wanted to
Yeah,
ask you that because I had a feeling. When I asked you the other day, hey, I assume in this moment of the way I believe you worded it was I've lost control.
yep,
I assume in that you've learned some lessons you never thought you would. As
yeah.
musicians, we don't ever think things like that will be taken away from us.
Right.
We,
We
we, we
don't.
don't ever think about those moments of what if I couldn't do this. And I have full belief, and I know that you've been working and rehabbing with that stuff, and you've been able to get back to doing that every once in a while. I have full belief and faith that you'll get back to be able to do it the way you want to do.
Even if God's been faithful, God's been true. He doesn't change. Even though, and this is not our home, brother. This is not our home.
That's right.
I don't want to go through it. I wish I could go around. I wish I could go over, under, anything but through. But
Yeah,
our faith is fortified and our vision becomes clear. Through the
I think
process, our faith is fortified and our vision becomes clear.
I think it's there. Like I
Mhm.
said, there's so many roads that I hope as we continue to do things together, I hope we can kind of go down some of these roads specifically.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of portions of your story that match a lot of different aspects that
Yeah.
that I think we could all learn from.
Yeah.
But I personally take the musician thing to heart
Hmm.
because really and truly, if I go and watch a video of someone who's dealing with something, I can't fully understand the impact of that because I've never been through that. But when you start talking about that, and I realized, oh gosh, what if it were
Yeah.
me? And honestly, it challenged me. I'm going to be real with you. It
Yeah.
challenged me to go, okay, because you were talking about, hey, I've had to I've had some situations with anger and with frustration, and I've had some stuff
Mhm.
going on where I've questioned. It challenged me to wonder if I
Yeah.
lost the ability, even momentarily, to be able to do something I love. What would my response be? As a Christian,
Yeah.
is my faith strong enough to say, all right, if that is what that is, then I will continue go on and I'll praise through whatever that may be. So I wanted, it challenged me, and I hope it challenges everyone because as
Well,
Christians, it's we're meant to be able to learn from those that are around us, and one way or another, it kind of out of nowhere, it was an iron sharpens iron moment for me.
it is challenging. It does, sharpen us. Even me, even me, like the person going through it. It's like I have to the control thing you talked about. I realized I thought I let go of control, but really did I? I've had to sit in the passenger seat the last, 4.5 months, and I've never done that. I've for 20 years of marriage, I've always driven my wife and I everywhere. So that sounds stupid to a lot of people, but it's a big deal, right? It's
Right.
it's learning to let go of that, like, and I think that's really helped. Some it's still like that. I cry during worship songs sometimes, and those are songs I've led, for I feel like forever.
Right.
But those songs are speaking to me right now. They're ministering to my brokenness, my
Yep.
heart, and it took me a while to want to worship, and but I'm gonna worship through it, brother. God's
But
not
isn't that a
done with
beautiful
me.
thing?
Yeah,
Isn't that a beautiful thing
yeah,
that
yeah,
it's interesting? And my mom, me and mom were talking the other day because my wife is looking at a job she's thinking about taking, and mom said the other day, you have to be really careful of any aspect of your life
yeah,
where it maybe is draining or mentally draining, or you have to be careful of just going and going and going and being kind of like we all are and want to keep going. You want to keep achieving things. You want to keep making things happen. She said you have to be careful that you're not trying to fill people up out of an empty cup.
yeah,
And I almost think there's a portion sometimes in life where God doesn't use a situation, not so much, but I do think there is a portion of that where we are forced in those situations to just sit back and
yeah,
allow someone to feed into us in that moment where we're not able to as easily go and speak, or we're not able to play or something like that.
yeah.
Allow ourselves the ability to be, if it makes sense this way, the
No, it
ability to be
makes
blessed
complete
by
sense.
someone else's ministry.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
ability to listen and learn from that, and,
yeah,
and to be able to still take into our soul and our heart about those things in our time of distress, because I think you would agree with me
yeah,
that it's even in these moments where as a dad, as a husband, you still want to feed into those other people. You still want to be
yeah,
the daily fixer, the daily provider. And it's hard for guys to lose that control. But I think it's even harder for us to accept that help, for us to
yeah.
accept that ministry and that love and that prayer.
Like, I think first and foremost, like, my kids were never mine.
Right.
They're his, and they've always been his. So my job as a dad, it's all about perspective. This is giving me a new perspective on life. Not that I didn't have it before, but it's just different, right? Just to point them to him, like point my wife closer to him. And am I successful at it every day? No,
Yeah.
no. I'm my flesh gets in the way, but my heart, I have to come back to, no, it's all about him, and it's for his glory alone. And my job is to point my family towards him and say I'm sorry sometimes. Dad didn't get it right. The husband, your spouse didn't get it right. But I think that's part of being humble and just knowing where your faith lies. Really, it's just it's just temporary, brother. It's but a vapor. And I've realized, like,
Right.
even 20-year-olds can have strokes. Even younger
That's right.
people than that can have strokes. Even healthy people, but I need to be healthier, and I am. Thank God.
Right.
If I can be and have a stroke, but I've lost 50 pounds, and praise God.
That's awesome.
I have 50 more to go, but it's a journey.
A point that I saw that made me really happy was that you had mentioned, you're going to be getting back into speaking engagements
Yep,
here soon, which is
yep,
fantastic.
yep.
Um, but you had made a mention about, hey, I really felt like, and I love how you worded it, because I think even you maybe in the conversation felt what I felt from it.
Hmm.
You had said, hey, I feel like I can't offer what I used to be able to offer because I was so used to going and being this complete package of speaker and worship and all this other stuff. And now this portion is no longer there. And so I'm telling churches, hey, I can't do this, but I can still do this. But the response
Hmm.
was, We want you regardless. And I
Yep.
think that I loved hearing that for you, because I feel like there's times where we get this whole package experience filled up, and we feel like, with if I'm not giving you everything I've got, if I'm not giving you everything I can give you to make that time worth what you're giving me, I'm letting you down. When in reality, if we took the music and everything away from a building full of people and all they heard was the story, that's all they were ever meant to hear in the first place.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, you know as well as I do that music is a ministry in its own. But
Yep.
someone's story and being able to tell that, being able to level with other people in the crowd, they're going to love the
Testimony.
songs for sure. I love music. I absolutely love it. But that person that's struggling with not knowing who their birth parents are is not going to learn anything from Oceans. And
Yep.
that person, that person that's struggling with drug addiction is not going to be able to personally be able to say, okay, he knows what I'm going through, or she knows what I'm going through, or that person that's dealing with lust, shooting college, and teenagers are not going to be able to sit there and be able to go with someone in that conversation. So I love that you're getting back into it. And I almost like that it's going to take time of you realizing how important to the world that portion of your story that isn't changing but is just growing is going to
Mhm.
be to the whole world. Because this is going to be a whole
Yep.
new portion of people that, as I truly believe, and Dad has told me many times, that the moment when we're able to look at our trauma and our hurt and what has happened to us and not no longer be hurt by it, but no longer allow it to bring chaos into our lives, is the moment where we're
Yep.
able to help other people fight through it. And so
Yep.
while you're in this moment, just from me and from my prayers for you, while you're in this moment of still sometimes saying, why is this? In the simple moments of maybe there being an action or a movement that doesn't work the way that you need it to, or something of that nature, in those moments saying, why is this? Why did this have to happen
Yep.
now? Why am I going through this? I've been through. I hope and I pray that you look at that and you realize, once I take that breath and I'm looking at these people, or I'm looking at my kids or my wife, that you're being that version of God and just being willing to go, okay, here's where I'm at. As with
Yep.
all this other brokenness and all, this is where you're at. And if this is what you got me, we're going to
Yep.
praise regardless, just like you just said.
Yep.
So from me to you, I just want to encourage you in saying that, yes, it does give a whole other meaning to broken, not dead, which is
Mhm.
a subject we
Mhm.
can get into in another episode, because there's a whole other portion of your ministry that we haven't been able to talk about today. But I
Yep.
just want you to know that I'm praying for you as you get back into these speaking engagements, as you get back into rehabilitating, into being able to play and do all these things. I truly believe that you will be able to play and do as you were, maybe even
Yep.
better than before. But I
Yep.
hope and I pray for you that as you learn that stuff again, that you gain a whole new appreciation for it, that you gain a whole new appreciation for your talents and for what your story means to the world, but even more so to what God's doing through that, because He's already doing things through it. For me, for my family, we've been talking about this over the last couple of days. So your story,
Yeah.
God's already doing things through that story. So I just want to encourage you and let you know that I'm so glad that,
Thank you for the
once
encouragement.
again, you didn't allow that why to stop you. Because
Nope.
again, this is another moment where somebody could have gone, all right, hey, I've had this happen. I don't need to do this again. But how many people are out there that are just waiting, don't even know it yet, but are waiting to hear
Yeah.
God's power and His faith through you?
I don't do it for me. I do it for him. I don't take the time to stop. And that's another thing I've been taught, resting in him. But I think that we overcome, like Revelations 12:11 says this in the Word. We overcome through the blood of the Lamb, which is Jesus, first and foremost. But it also says the word of our testimony.
That's right.
Like our stories matter. So I think that's what I heard as you talked. Our stories matter, bro. And I can get so make it layman's term. I can get busy dying, or I can
That's
get
right.
busy living, and I choose to live. I don't know how long we have on this earth, but I will make it count.
That's right.
And I fought my whole life. I can look back over, man, I fought, but God's been right there every step of the way. I don't fight alone. And I know there's a lot of people across the country that I don't fight alone because God has shown me I don't. But even if they weren't there, even if He never left me, He never forsakes me, He's still God. And I hold tight, man. I hold tight to that truth. And I believe that with everything in me.
I think I heard a podcast I listened to. It's a pastor and a worship music leader that do a podcast on a monthly
Yeah.
basis, and he talked about one of the hardest prayers you'll ever pray is the one that you pray when you don't see the movement or the response you think you should be seeing.
Yep. Yep.
And he was so right about that. And I think
Yep.
that
He was.
it's stories like this where it's moments of just even a daily struggle of work sucking during the day, or
Yeah.
of it
We
just
all
being
have
a
our
bad
battles,
day.
bro.
It's all these battles.
Yep.
That's why I love being able to do this, is to say, hey, you know what? Yes, it may be rough. And yes, there are some things going on that suck.
Yep.
But
But
don't
he's still
stop.
good.
Don't
Don't
stop praying.
stop.
Don't stop thanking God. And
Yep.
I just absolutely love that. I really do. And I hope that going forward with other stuff, I hope we're able to talk about, especially with Broken Not Dead and the things that are going on there, and maybe be able to do some things covering that. And hopefully to dive maybe a little bit more um, into a few parts of your story at later points in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I'm just
Well,
very blessed
I'm
and
here
honored
for
that
it.
we were able to talk about it today, and I'm just happy. I'm just happy that you were able to be. I mean, I told you this the other day. Like, I'm just happy we're able to talk, because it, like you said, it could have gone so much
It
worse, but it
it,
didn't.
it
And you're
could have
here, and
gone.
we're able to have this conversation.
Right. I could not be here, but
That's
God's
right.
not done. God's not done, brother. So I'm gonna keep fighting. So I don't know who needs to hear this, but God's not done with you. So don't give up. Keep fighting every day. Just trust His plan.
I agree, and I will end that on saying something that I heard Dad echo the other day through one of his, I think his devotions, and it was, I would rather believe in God and follow Him every day of my life and be wrong when I die than not believe in Him and lose what I could lose if I'm wrong when I die.
Mhm.
So I just
That's a good word. That's a good
I
word.
love these conversations. I love being
Yeah.
able to, because I'm a young dude. I've not been through a whole bunch in my
It's
life,
just real, bro. It's real.
but yeah, and that's why I reached out to you, because there's somebody's going to be watching this that is going to realize that they're not alone. And
Yep.
honestly, if I can say one thing, um, when I went through my divorce, that was hard,
Mhm.
because you just feel like you're there in a dark corner. When you go through medical issues and you go through possibly life-ending events, you feel like you're alone. When you go through loss of a family member or loss of a friend, you feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
I found that one of the most powerful things for me that ultimately ended up getting me back in church now with our family
Yeah.
was realizing I wasn't alone, and having people that spoke into me, having people that shared their experiences. And had it not been for those people that shared that
Yep.
they'd been through it, they had been through those hard things, it had been, I don't know what the outcome would have been, because I
Yeah.
know by my own will, my own power, I wasn't
Yep.
doing too great.
Yep.
So
Nope.
for that person that's watching this and is maybe going through this, because I don't know what their situation is, hearing what God's done, I want them to realize I'm not alone. That's the
You're
whole
not.
point of this.
You're not alone.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. You're not
Well,
alone.
I just really appreciate this conversation. I appreciate you being
Me
here.
too. Me too,
I
Caleb.
really
Thank
do.
you.
Absolutely. And guys, if you want to, actually, you know what? I don't even, you're just gonna do it. That's what we're gonna say. It ain't anybody who want to. I'm gonna challenge you to do it. I'm gonna have everything with Steventhen linked below. Um, can I put dates out for your going forward events? Or
Yeah, if you want,
okay,
you can.
yeah, because
I'm booked up solid for 26. I'm not taking any more, but for 27, I'm still the books are open. So I
okay,
have a threshold. That's one thing God showed me. I have to
right.
slow down some. So instead of doing 60 events, I'm only doing 14. This year. But for
It's funny. You
27,
and
I
Dad
think.
are in the same boat with that. You guys are both
Yeah,
starting to realize you got to slow down just a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. So whether we want to or not, God's going to slow us down. So
That's
that's
exactly
another
right.
episode. But I'm open for 27. I'm still taking booking. So
Well, we will have everything listed below for Steventhen's ministry for himself, because I want you
yeah,
guys to be able to go and get to know him as a person. I'll also have stuff for Broken Not Dead. Hopefully, we can maybe do some other stuff going forward and dive deeper into that portion of those things, because there's a whole story there too and a ministry to be discussed in that
yeah,
situation. But I want to link their stuff regardless, so that you guys can go in and be involved and support that as well, because they have some amazing stories, just like Steventhen's. That's the whole reason they do what they do. They have some incredible productions they've done over there to be able to, once again, tell people they're not alone. So I'll have all that linked below. Most importantly, I love you. I
I
love you
love
with
you
all my
too.
heart.
I love you too,
And
Kelly.
B, it is a blessing for myself, for my family, and I hope to everyone here, for you to be here, because you're loved and your purpose has just gone stronger. And I'm excited. I'm excited and I'm praying for what God's going to do through this growing story. I'm excited to see what God does
Yeah,
with you and with your family and with this story. I'm excited to see the lives that it changes. And I hope we're going to be keeping up with everything y'all do, as we've always been. But we're going to be continuously praying for you guys. And as I would challenge all of you to be for him as well in his ministry, stories just really change people.
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like stories just really change people. So I just want you to know that hopefully we encourage you to keep going. And as you get back into these engagements, know that we're supporting you. But more importantly, God's working through that. And we're so excited. And it's an honor to have you here. And it's an honor to hear what God's doing. So thank you.
Well, Caleb, thank you for having me on. And I'm thankful today that I'm saved and I'm definitely Southern. You can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. So it is what it is.
Hey,
Saved and Southern.
well, as we like to say around here, we like talking a little salt, light, and country spice. And
I love it.
it's always an honor to be able to share stories like this and walk a journey together and do it with a little southern hospitality, if you will.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing to be able to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I'm going to link everything that Steventhen has below. I hope that you guys go and support it and go just enjoy some time watching some of their production. It's a blessing what they've done, and to be able to cover those stories. And I don't know, maybe be challenged by a little bit of it. I don't know. Maybe people around you that need prayer and need support and need you to be in their corner, like Steventhen has had from so many people, and that you've heard and that you will hear. So thank you guys so much for watching. Steventhen, thank you for your time. It was an honor to have you here. And we will see you guys in the next one.